Hey, so for the benefit of the IKEA team, I thought I'd do a little go-to of how I'd like to go about editing some of these questions. For the music, it's some goofy Goa trance I like listening to if you want to check it out. So Danielle sent me this toss-up on Hegel. I haven't looked at it yet. I'm gonna just read through it and give some of my thoughts as I go through about editing this. So let's read the question. This thinker distinguished between classical, romantic, and symbolic art in his aesthetic philosophy, and argued that classical art was the home of ideal beauty, while symbolic art fell short of beauty in itself. Huh, it's a pretty good clue. I think, yeah, this is, it's a bit wordy. I think for a set of this, like, I like how this clue is long and meaty and gives a lot of description. I just worry a bit, because we're trying to keep a tight length limit at this set. So we'll think about that one. Contrary to popular belief, this philosopher never claimed that art ended in the modern age, but did claim that it was dissolving. Yeah, I recognize that. I think if you pin this down with, I think Arthur Danto applies this in his essay, The Art World, so if we can tie that in somehow, I think that'd be good. He saw art as the expression of human freedom, and that humans could only enjoy such freedom if institutions like the family, civil society, and state were properly established. Okay, so it's connecting it to, it sounds like the philosophy of right. This is fine, it just sounds kind of vague, you know? It's under a very Hegelian thesis, but the problem is, I think, that's not pinned down enough. It would be hard for many players to feel confident about buzzing on that, and I think it sounds plausibly applicable to anybody who takes a Hegelian approach to things. So, in a different series of essays, this philosopher argued that freedom of spirit, okay, very Hegelian, good, was the essence of humanity, and described history as a slaughter bench. For 10 points, name this philosopher who delivered lectures on aesthetics and the philosophy of history to students in Heidelberg and Berlin. Okay, so this giveaway actually would be a good pre-FTP. And then we could say FTP, the phenomenology of spirit. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and figure that part out, actually, since we definitely know we're gonna have to do that. For 10 points, name this author of... Name this German idealist who wrote... This gives you... If you do it this way, so I'm writing the giveaway this way because then you have 2 buzz points in the giveaway, German idealist and the phenomenology of spirit. So Hegel, Heidelberg. I'm just gonna make sure that this was this philosopher gave lectures on aesthetics, students at Heidelberg in Berlin. And just to pin that down a bit, maybe there's a title we could work in here. I mean, it's just called Lectures on the Philosophy of History. Dialectic. Hegel, dialectic history. As dialectical processes. This is perhaps a bit vaguer than I'd like, but I think this could probably work. So freedom of spirit is the essence of humanity. We'll figure that out as a middle clue. So let's dig into some of these early clues. Danto, Hegel, end of art. So there's actually an essay called The Art World. The Art World Danto, and I'm gonna go into that if we can. because this is a very famous essay, and it defined the concept of art world. And so I'm fairly sure this has something about Hegel in it. Having read this a while before. Fungal. Is there a better edition of this to search? Yeah, there is a better version. Doesn't actually directly mention Hegel. Interesting. There's a connection to Hegel, though. Oh, the end of art, a philosophical defense. Okay. Well, this is giving us something to work on. Classical statuary and Gothic rose windows serve examples of art in its highest vocation. Ideal beauty. Okay, that's good. Let's see. Hegel, art highest vocation. This is also replicating the classical, romantic, and symbolic distinction that is being brought up here. It looks like classical. I'm not seeing symbolic and romantic. Okay, and symbolic art in his aesthetic philosophy. Ideal beauty. I think this will be fine here. This thinker's aesthetic philosophy distinguished between classical, romantic, and symbolic art, and argued that classical art was the home of ideal beauty. Contrary to popular belief. This thinker's claim that art considered in its highest vocation remains for us a thing of the past is contrasted with Arthur Danto's view in the latter's essay on the end of art. Yeah, this man's, I think usually I don't want to go with this man, but I think in the case of I think in this case you want to hint that it's an older philosopher, and this helps tip towards that as well, among other things. This man's clinical art is so now we can go back to now we can go back to the Danto. Guys, realities in sensuous form. Okay, so is examined by considering Warhol's Brillo boxes in Arthur Danto's S on the end of art. And I think this gets, while this isn't capturing the whole of it, I would like to talk about how Danto distinguishes his own view from Hegel's. I think in this case, you're getting his claim that art, considered its highest vocation, is and remains for us a thing of the past, examined by considering Warhol's Brillo boxes in Arthur Danto's essay on the end of art. So I think this will let people buzz on end of art with Hegel. It's not drawing the same contrast, but that Daniel's question correctly does, but it does give you benefit of being able to buzz on the example of a Brillo box, which is how Danto typically talks about this. And then you get to Danto, and then you get the end of art, and that's gonna, people who know the end of art Hegel thesis will be able to buzz there. So art as the expression of human freedom, that seems kind of tipping its hand too much. That's a bit too Hegelian for my taste at this point in the question. Since I know Hegel talks about human freedom a lot, let's see how we can do this. Hegel's aesthetics. Okay, let's mine through this real quick. Art, religion, and philosophy in Hegel's system. So reading this is giving me ideal beauty, confirming that this all stuff is going in the right direction. Family, civil society, and the state. I see. Okay, so I'm guessing Daniel got the phrasing right out of here. So we can perhaps talk about more broadly Hegel's philosophy approach here. So this thinker, we don't have to keep it all purely about his aesthetics. So you could probably do a lot on that, but I'd rather just transition. So let's talk about ethical life Hegel. So he has the Hegel's concept of the ethical order. Hegel aesthetics, ethical life. I wonder if there's any connection here. Okay, so we can do this philosopher wrote that the pathos of ancient Greek characters articulated the articulated? Ethical life. Articulates the ethical life. Okay, ethical life is a very big Hegelian concept. I think we'll just stick with that. So, ethical life. And we should probably just describe what the ethical life is from here. So he argued that the pathos articulated the notion of an ethical life, which he conceived of as the concept of, and we're going to put a power mark here, freedom, since Hegel talks about freedom an awful lot. So the concept of freedom developed into the existing world. Through family, civil society, and the state. We're going to shorten this up. Art in its highest vocation, dot dot dot. I'm going to cut this down. This still gets the total impact of it across. Examining alright, this philosopher's aesthetics distinguish between classical beauty Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to see how long this comes out. Hopefully this is slightly under 800. Oh, it's perfect. Huh, I like this. Maybe ethical life doesn't have to be in power, but I'm inclined to be generous for the most part. So we have, this philosopher's aesthetics distinguished between classical, romantic, and symbolic art, and argued that classical art was the home of ideal beauty. This man's claim that art in its highest vocation remains for us a thing of the past is examined by considering Warhol's Brillo boxes and Arthur Danto's essay on the end of art. This man argued that the pathos of ancient Greek characters articulated his notion of an ethical life, which he conceived of as the concept of freedom developed into the existing world through family, civil society, and the state. He gave lectures on aesthetics and history to students in Heidelberg and Berlin, and described both of them using his concept of dialectic. For 10 points, name this German idealist who wrote the Phenomenology of Spirit. I think this could probably be tweaked a bit more to be a bit more specific in the late clues, but for now I'm pretty happy with this toss-up. It's got an interesting new early clue set on Hegelianism, specifically aesthetics. It's got the ethical life in there, which people can buzz on for sure, and is a very important concept of what the initial author was initially trying to talk about. Puts in the concept of freedom. Still has the same clue there, but articulates it in one shorter sentence. And still has the same giveaway, basically, although with a bit more of a slope. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this question. I hope this this video gives you a little bit of an idea of how my editing thought process goes. It's not always the same way, but I liked this question, I liked the notion of it, and I just wanted to tune it a bit to maximize the number of potential buzz points you can get in this question while still telling a bit of a story. So here I use a ton of buzz points. You got the 3-point distinction. You can buzz on the phrase ideal beauty. You can buzz on Hegel's quote. You could buzz on a description of Danto talking about the Brillo boxes in Hegelian art. You can buzz on Danto. You can buzz on the end of art by connecting that to Hegel's ideal of the end of art. You can probably buzz on ethical life. You can buzz on the concept of freedom. You can buzz on the description of key things from like philosophy of right here. You can probably buzz on lectures on aesthetics and history, even though that in itself wouldn't be like super unique. Hegel's lectures are particularly quite famous, and especially once you get the Heidelberg and Berlin context, you can definitely buzz on dialectic, since that's very Hegelian. You can buzz on German idealist, and you can buzz on phenomenology of spirit. So there's a ton of potential buzz points in this question, but it also reads cleanly, so that's why I like it a lot. Anyways, I hope that gives you a little bit of the number of things I consider when trying to edit a question like this, and yeah, take a look at it. Thanks everyone. Have fun.